I think, Cynthia, this is Abraham, Nevada. There has always been a distinct difference between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, and it's two different bodies of thought. And I think what Charles is referring to is that you can have this thing stitched together so tightly that in the opposition mind, they would be able to brew any kind of horror that we would be able to authoritatively get away with imposing upon them should they not capitulate to what is right. I think that's what Charles is saying, that once we're assembled, once we're intact, once we have the momentum, that those types of possibilities can become very doable. Because something is doable, if the opponent knows it's doable, that usually is enough of a deterrent so it does not have to be done.
Yeah, just like with the Samoan. You don't need to resort to violence when you've got the overwhelming presence and logic and reason for the justification of your actions.
And Charles, that guy who ran that auto parts store, he was aggressive, he was hostile, he was trying to come across like a Bronx jabroni, and he was trying to be intimidating. And then when we showed up, because I told the guy that I was working with, I said, we're going to go get this Samoan I know, and we're going to come over here, we're going to shut this guy up. But I didn't know the Samoan had all these tricks up his sleeve. But it worked like a charm. And it wasn't so much that the guy was big, right? But it was more so that this guy knew that the Samoan had, this was not new to him. He was rehearsed, and he just knew that whatever entanglement that he would try to put up against the Samoan and what we were doing, he would lose drastically. So he started backpedaling dramatically. It was shameful how he started. You saw somebody who went from a tiger to a mouse in almost a moment. I was embarrassed.
I'm really glad you're sharing that, Abraham. That's great. And I do believe you're recognizing that that exact same scenario is very likely to occur if we engineer our judicial investigations that we were referring
to. Absolutely, you would have dry runs. You would have staged dry runs so that you could get the dynamics and the protocols down, so that once you're doing it live, it would unfold according to script as best can be anticipated. But it should unfold, very properly. The Samoan, he was rehearsed. He had done this before. But there was still a slight hesitancy with his mannerisms. But it was executed so effectively that the other fella backpedaled and started to kowtow immediately. And it was incredible to watch that happen.
That's a great testimony, Abraham. I'm really glad you shared it. Comments, questions, anybody else?
I think that's the direction we're going in. That's what we're going to have to do, something like that.
Yeah, well, especially the bad guys are looming, plugs into the aircraft carriers off the coast and the whole coronavirus thing. They're locking down a military police state over us. And the local police departments and sheriff's departments are probably going to be mindless sock puppets for that whole evil empire, New World Order agenda, unless we throw down the gauntlet and tell them, just like we're talking about, that we're not going to have it anymore.
Yeah, there have to be some practice for sure.
I totally agree with that. It's about strategy and everything, and know what you have going on and who you're working with. And the strategy is very, very important. Just like when you play chess, it's all about the strategy. And you say that guy had even though he practiced it and he did it many times, what he was probably doing is his strategy, because every human being reacts on a situation somewhat differently. And so his strategy, he knows this really works, but he has to pay attention to his opponent, because his opponent probably can change the game at any time. So that man probably wouldn't have backed down. And what if he didn't? He had game B or game.
I thought he was gonna sick the pit bulls on us. I didn't realize that the Samoan did work so well, because this guy had 3 big vicious pit bulls behind the counter, and I thought he was gonna sick them on us. but he was afraid for his pit bulls. He thought the pit bulls would all be in jail too.
But the whole thing is with that Ammonian guy, he was probably paying attention to his opponent and he see that he was really taking control of it, so he went even further. But he probably had another plan. But it's always good because you don't always just think that another man is going to react the same way that that other guy acted that other day. But then you also have a game plan. If he didn't, what else would I do? Do I have another game plan? So he was a little like paying attention to this guy, the way this guy was moving, the way he was carrying his body. That's very important when you're going into a situation that, with another person. And
well, this guy was a bodyguard, you know, for a lot of rap stars. So he already knew the violent encounter, and he already knew how to psychologically dominate.
So he had some wonderful skills. You know, his strategy was pretty good. But then sometimes you got to always remember, don't judge the book by its cover. And even though this guy was like, he did it many times and it worked that way, but you said that he had like this attitude like he was kind of unsure. It wasn't about he was unsure. He was really checking out and he's very keen. And he seems to be
right. He was assessing. He was assessing and analyzing spontaneously.
Exactly. So that was, I think he was very, very, very intelligent in that way because he was checking out his opponent. And
afterwards, me and him had a little talk, right? Because he could have pushed it further. And I asked him, I said, why didn't you go further? He says, I didn't want to get in over my head because if the guy had called the cops and I really had no jurisdiction and no lawful authority, he said, I didn't want to push it too far where they were going to have to call the police because he was acting as though he was functioning in official capacity, but he was really just bluffing. But the bluff worked well.
Yeah. Yes, pretty good.
It was amazing. I wish I would have recorded it. I just thought it was brilliant. I talked to the Samoan for a good half hour after that, and try to read his mind, understand his movement, because I had to do a lot of collections on these camera systems that people just would hesitate paying us. And so I had to go do a lot of these collections myself. So I had to employ some of these kinds of tactics, but I was not as effective as he was with the little pen camera and quoting and citing different sections of law. It was very intimidating and very effective. And this guy who fancied himself as a wolf turned into a mouse immediately.
That's a great story, Abraham.
I think that we can rehearse something like this, and we can deploy it just as well.
Yeah. Well, as we properly engineer, as we build our community,
we won't be bluffing.
Right. And what we need is people with individual cases on the ground that are willing to throw down the gauntlet in front. Local bureaucrats. That's essential element number one, and essential element number two is have at least suggest at least two people willing to walk in with you to do that judicial investigation or similar confrontation.
Well, when it's executed properly, Charles, there's no confrontation. There's just capitulation, because that's what it was. It was capitulation.
Well, to the law. Everybody is subject to the law, and those people that were previously resistant to lawful authority, now all of a sudden law is being correctly articulated to them in their face, and they are recognizing finally the inferiority of their previously held position, and they're subjecting themselves to the laws which are common in the local community there.
I kind of envision, those, in the movie, what was it, Gladiator, where they have the big war scene, the beginning of the movie, where you have the Roman Empire's troops on one side, you have the barbarians' troops on the other side, and before the war engages, you have a formation. And the strategy and the deployment of that formation is, as the enemy approaches, then your formation quickly changes to adapt to the oncoming threat. And then you have your arrows come out, you have your catapults come out, so you have all different tactical strategies from your position, being deployed strategically. I imagine a microcosm of that, where you might have 8 to 10 people go in on one of these kinds of events, and you have a strategy that's kind of like a microcosm of the way these Romans deployed their forces, with the many elements of those forces coming to bear depending on what was presented to them. So they had an infinite amount of variability to their response. I think something like that can be done if we studied the terrain very well.
And that is exactly true, because that's exactly what the judges do. Because when I was in the courtroom and I was talking with confidence, and he mentioned things because I didn't know a lot about certain things, I said the wrong thing. And when I did that, he got confident again, because he's looking for that fear, and he asks you different things just to see how much you do know.
Yeah, it's the changing nature of the battlefield.
Exactly. And that's exactly what they do to you. When they find out that you have any type of fear or you don't know exactly what you're talking about, it's smoke and mirrors. And that's what they do. But if they feel, and if you can make them think that you know exactly what you're doing, and you're not going to stand down, and
you're not by yourself. The thing is not to be caught out there by yourself, because he's got the district attorney, he's got all those idiots behind him playing the game. If you've got your team assembled properly and you have your strategy intact and you can move on a moment's notice as the battlefield changes, then you can keep him in deep check and keep him on the defensive rather than you get pushed into the defensive.
And that's what I was telling Charles. Yeah, that's what I was telling Charles. I said, we got to go in there together as well. You have to have somebody, like, I'm here by myself here, okay? And everybody around me, like, oh, you're going to go to jail. Oh, you're talking against the judge like this or something like that. We have to get together as a team. And
you have to have a psychological force, not so much a physical force, but mostly a psychological force.
Exactly.
Many hands make light work, and so you need many hands together, many minds, being able to have one unified projection.
That's what we don't have. I mean, we're building it, and people are coming more aware of it. And so I see it's moving. It's moving because a lot of people, that's why I said it has to be knowledge, because a lot of our people that's asleep really feel like this is the law, and when they say something, you must do it.
Cynthia, the thing is this: these bullies, and that's what they are, bullies, because not many people can develop the fortitude to really contest them, and if they do, it's a half-hearted contest. So these bullies, once they come up against anybody who's got any kind of formidable type of opposition, they will fold like a cheap suit. They will duck cover and they will run, because they're not accustomed to a force equal or superior to theirs coming out with ferocity and knowledge and stability and being able to project that right in their face. They will become so fearful, I will feel sad for them. Just like I felt for that shop owner, how quickly he became a cow, how quickly he became a little duck.
Exactly. That's almost like what was that movie, Yellow Brick Road? And when they went
exactly. That's right. The all-powerful wizard was really a little old man in the back. And once you realize what he's about, then you can just blow smoke up his butt. And that's it. He's done. He's finished with.
That's correct.
One day maybe you might pick up the allegory of the Wizard of Oz. It's an allegory. It was written as a political protest to what was happening in the country at that time. It's called the Wizard of Oz Allegory. Have you ever looked into it?
No, I just understand the meaning behind it from a metaphysical point of view.
Yeah, well, one day you might want to pick. It's I think a 12 or 13-page allegory that explains what's happening in the movie and why was the movie written. The guy who wrote the book ran for president 4 times and did not get elected, and the book was a protest, and he couldn't come out and directly protest, so he put it in the form of a children's story so that the meanings would be hidden.
Yes, actually, yes. What I got from metaphysics, part of that is that we don't know, because they have put us to sleep in so many ways, that we don't know how powerful, like they were looking for a heart and looking for this, when we already have all this. But we were...
She said the power was with her all the time. All she had to do was pick her nose.
Exactly. The power was with us. But now they have us believe that it's not, because we just this poor little wrench when we're so...
We're the scarecrow, the cowardly lion, you know, the rusty tin man. Yeah,
that was beautiful for us to really look within and really realize that we are the power. We are the people with the power. They're just using our creation. They're using us.
Well, without the people and the labor, the courts have nothing.
And that's what they're using, because the fiat money, that's no money. I'm going to pay you. What they do is they take our creativity, our value. When you sign, even when you get a loan or anything, they're taking that money from you signing that, because that's your value, for you to create the payment, and they just go out and invest it and do what they want to do with it. But without your signature...
Everyone on this call understands that dynamic very well.
Exactly, yeah. So we are the ones with the power, and we're letting them use our value. They're taking out, because they can't, these mimics and these creatures cannot do anything. They can't create anything. We're the ones creating everything. We are the seed. It's a spiritual warfare. We are the seed that's creating everything, and they're using our creation because they just mimic everything.
Yeah, they're dependent on us.
Parasites. That's what you call parasites. They're parasitic.
Yeah, the archons.
Yeah. Yeah, they are parasites. That's a real good analogy, Cynthia, and that relates to the concept of the body politic, where there's communities of people that are responsible for the government, and they are the self-governing. The self-governing communities are diametrically opposed to the parasite individuals and communities, and they're organized. The parasite communities are organized to pillage and plunder. They are definitely more organized than us. The very Roman Empire nature of the federal and state level of government is civil municipal, which is based upon economic municipal bonds, which is essentially slavery, which is when you enslave other people, and that's parasitical. And yeah, that's what they're doing. And so, and a lot of the task at hand, we're in a battle for the minds and hearts of the people. Because once we get enough minds and hearts of people harmonizing with us and going, yeah, this sounds good. This community is worthy of investing my time and energy in. It's worthy for me to call in regular and participate in their conferences. Once we get enough numbers like that, then we will start making progress. And so it's a battle for the minds and hearts of the people, and they're under ability to use words such as parasite and body politic to explain things in a more fundamental and clear and organic nature. That makes light bulbs go off in people's heads. They go, oh, hey, these people aren't just a bunch of kooks. They're actually making sense on something that I can comprehend. I can comprehend things now that are bigger and more important than other things that I've ever comprehended before. This is a really valuable group. I want to continue participating in this group because there's probably other things that I don't know that they're going to be informing me of too. See, at that point, we get loyalty. We get trust. People come to trust us because we are talking about real issues instead of all the cowards and sock puppets of the evil empire that are surrounding us.